Hello everybody. How's it going everybody? We're back with another unbiased fucking shit chair with another unbiased history. Okay. Usually I take a little bit longer time between these videos, but today we're watching this one because we want to watch the next one, which is the Byzantium series. Why do we want to watch the Byzantium series? Because it has fucking Bulgaria in it. Why does it have Bulgaria in it? Because my country's like right over there. Byzantium over there, my country here, Byzantium over there, through the window, okay? Now, yes, that is the sole reason, because Bulgaria. Anyway, let's get into this video. Let's get into it. This is Unbiased History, Rome, 15 something. The fall of Rome. Dark Ages. Well, bright for my country, but dark for Rome, I guess. Let's get to it.
There once was a dream that fell. The empire of the 1st century, that of Augustus, in the 5th century, had been permanently split in half, invaded by barbarians, and about to face the greatest enemy it ever had.
By the way, I noticed something when I'm watching these videos. The Roman Empire seems to be invaded the most by the... You know which tribe? Romans. What the fuck is up with all the civil wars and shit?
The fat corpse of the Western Emperor rotted,
30 years
in Constantinople, the Eastern Emperor was a puppet of his sister, waging religious wars against the Sassanids, and not even finishing the job. And while Eudoxia larped as a femme Constantine, Theodosius II had a daughter named Licinia, who was arranged to Valentinian III once Galla Placidia arrived from the west. In Hispania, however, as
the future emperor needs a set of XX chromosomes.
To Valentinian III was Galla Placidia arrived from the west.
Okay.
In Hispania, however, as the Vandals took over, two of Constantius III's legates took over, Castinus and Bonifacius. And while the former was focused on the battles, the latter was an absolute cunt to work with. Disagreeing with Castinus about everything, he straight up abandoned his duties and marched away with the Roman legions to spite him, setting up in North Africa. Left only with the Gothic Federati to command, Castinus attacked the Vandals, and was betrayed by the Goths, like clockwork. Returning to Italy and learning of what happened, Castinus helped elevate a prominent local, Joannes, as the new Western Augustus. And this drove Galla Placidia nuts, who barraged Theodosius, gradually an actual emperor, to name her son Valentinian III as the actual Western Augustus, sending two barbarians, Ardabur and Aspar, to kill Joannes. To make things worse, Bonifacius refused to recognize any emperor that Castinus liked, so he declared for Valentinian III and cut off the grain supply to Rome. Lacking a proper army to defend himself, Joannes resorted to the best men under his command.
A big chin! A big chin! We haven't seen one of these in a while. Yes! Big chins. Fuck yeah.
Flavius
Come on,
Aetius
big
to
chin.
help him. And disgusted by the empire's division, Aetius knew well what he had to do, and he was the only one that could do it. Despite the disadvantages
Was
of
this the Mongol child
to
that was
capture
abducted?
Ardabur once he invaded Italy, but he let him live, long enough for him to talk one of his own men into betraying him. Joannes was then tortured to death in Aquileia, overseen by Galla Placidia and Aspar, whom recently took the city. And just as she had secured power from her son, Galla sensed a coldness in the air, an imminent sense of dread, of despair grew on her, until one day she looked from one of the city towers and froze in fear. An army of Huns camped outside Aquileia, with Aspar's Germanic men dead at their feet. Knowing they were doomed, she and Aspar tried some diplomacy, and to their surprise,
I'm too historically relevant to die.
No, instead, the monsters gave way to someone, approaching ever nearer, and that someone was Aetius, asking Galla to end this petty conflict. After years of exile in the lands of the Huns, Aetius had come to understand their true nature, which he used to his favor. In this era of barbarity, Aetius learned to subdue the monsters to his whim, but this skill had its limits, for he was not their true master. Galla thus named Aetius her Magister Militum, though she already had one, while the Huns were allowed to go back to their Dark Lord. Knowing who the empire would soon face, Aetius raised plebs like Aegidius and Marcellinus to help strengthen the empire, including a young patrician recruit.
Another big chin! Oh shit, bruh!
The tragic hero, Julius Majorian, together with a certain German, a descendant of a long lineage of barbarian kings, part Visigoth, part Suebi. Ricimer was his name, allowed to join the legions when he was very young. Having grown up watching Alaric's reign of terror over Italy, Ricimer would live out Arminius' legacy once more. Castinus, however, was exiled, while Aetius, once hearing the Goths were sieging Arles, marched there to stop them. Crossing the Alps, he found Arles being sieged by a new Visigothic king, Theodoric, and kicked him back to Aquitaine. But only that. Aetius refused to crush the Goths, for he knew that once the true enemy attacked, they would be needed. Already winning victories, Aetius was already the target of envy, with the other Magister Militum plotting to kill him. Something Aetius found out in no time, and had him executed.
Smell betrayal.
But the thing with traitors is that there's always another one. Bonifacius in this case, who transferred his hate for Castinus onto Aetius. And lacking the military strength to do anything about it, he contacted the new king of the Vandals in Hispania, a demon named Gaiseric, inviting him to settle in Africa in exchange for supporting him, and you almost could hear his evil laugh echo through time. Bonifacius thus led 80,000 Vandals cross the sea onto Mauritania, where they then betrayed Bonifacius and marched towards Africa.
Wow, how surprising.
Failing to stop them, Bonifacius fled to Carthage, letting the Vandals take over Numidia, including Hippo, where future Saint Augustine resided. With no hope left, Augustine invoked the power of Deus through prayer, and at the cost of his life, despite the Vandals having destroyed the entire city, they were unable to destroy his library. As for Aetius, he had marched on the Danube, where the Ostrogoths had been continually raiding, and marched on Gaul, where he retook most of the Frankish-occupied Rhine. Meanwhile, Galla Placidia received Bonifacius in Ravenna, and for having let the Vandals invade Africa, she named him the West's Magister Militum, firing Aetius and starting a civil war. Don't ask me why. Aetius then, after leaving his best troops in Gaul so he wouldn't collapse, entered Italy, battling Bonifacius and mortally wounding him. But the thing is, he could only spare his worst plebs to fight, who actually lost the battle. And before Galla Placidia could celebrate victory in Ravenna, Aetius arrived there pulling the same trick from before. Aetius then took back his position, released his grip on the Huns, and married Bonifacius' Gothic widow to cuck him even in death. While in the east, Theodosius continued having Bonifacius' Gothic widow to cuck
God damn, that widow got some big ass melons.
him even in death. While in the east, Theodosius continued having a daughter, but what really ruined his day were the increasingly troubling reports he received from the Sassanid Empire. Sending diplomats to secure peace, it was said the Huns demanded several tons of gold. But once he delivered them, they demanded double the amount. He delivered again, and again double was demanded. Theodosius was perfectly happy to throw gold at a problem, but only later he learned he was throwing gold at nothing. Castles plundered, dominions in ruin, servants destroyed, a bloody conquest having consumed hundreds of thousands, countless villages razed to the ground by one and one alone. But what really struck fear into his mortal heart was where he was now. The time had come, for on the other side of the Danube, on the closing decades of the Classical era, the scourge of God, Attila the Hun, invaded the Roman Empire. From all directions, his countless hordes attacked, taking over the Balkans with terrifying speed. The first victims were the limited border guards, being all slaughtered and their old forts destroyed. Mounted on cavalry, they were too fast for the legions to respond, arriving at the cities far before any reinforcements arrived. With demonic battering rams, they crushed the gates open, and on city after city began killing any and all civilians they found. The cities of Illyria were reduced to ruins. Moesia met the same fate with equal brutality. Sirmium and Proto-Belgrade were among the victims. However, Nisus, home of so many Roman heroes, suffered the worst fate of all. The city's population was completely annihilated, with the bones of the men, women, and children of Nisus spread around the city's plains, so that the world would know the wrath of Attila. Absolutely shitting his robes with fear, Theodosius sent endless envoys begging Attila to stop, but the only answer he received was a demand for a local bishop, which they eventually got anyway, for Attila hated nothing more than followers of the one true God, and so he was marching straight towards Constantinople. Sacking every city on his path, Attila was met by the East's greatest army and completely crushed it. Knowing he would eventually come there, Theodosius gathered as many of the remaining eastern legions together as he could, mounting a last-ditch defense on the battlefield, and hiding behind the great Theodosian walls. But Theodosius would only understand who he was dealing with after what came next. Conjuring the evilest powers known to this world, Attila started a gigantic earthquake in Constantinople, and once the tremors gradually calmed down, not much was affected, except the huge cracks and gaps it inflicted on the Theodosian walls, severely weakening them. And just like that, Constantinople
I'm
was
sorry,
doomed to
plebs.
share the fate of Nisus. Or it would be, had it not driven the city's population to such terror that they mobilized with the city's engineers to get it rebuilt. Enslaving themselves to butch work, by the time Attila arrived, the Theodosian walls were good as new. Once Attila had slaughtered the Eastern Empire's army again, he laid siege to Constantinople. But despite how much he tried, the wall's defenses stood strong, overseen by the general Zeno, who had the luck of relying on Euphemus' legacy. It became clear Constantinople was too divinely protected to be destroyed, but that wouldn't stop Attila, for he wasn't the only of his targets. Attila then destroyed the remnants of the East's armies and vanished into the north, getting plenty of gold being thrown in his general direction. And deciding how much would be enough was an official named Orestes, who had betrayed civilization and joined the Huns. Having sold his soul to Attila in exchange for great power, he would serve his master's interests to the very end, as would another one of Attila's servants.
Jesus, the fuck's wrong with that guy?
The Burgundian's aggression had so gotten to his nerve that he ordered some Huns to attack and slaughter them, being less merciful than usual. And as Aetius ever more lost his patience with the shitty late Empire officials he had to work with, it got to the point that Valentinian III, Galla Placidia, sent one of the top officials in Italy to settle the feud.
Another big chin!
Successfully calming Aetius down, Leo gained his respect and that of the people, which was convenient when the Pope died, and the people voted Leo to succeed him. A Roman through and through, Leo embraced his duty to protect Rome's faith and civilization.
Arius did nothing wrong.
For too long, the interests of the state and Christians had been divergent. Choosing to fight both for the faithful and citizens of Rome, he actively sought to end the Arian-Nicene division, persecuted the Manichaeans in Rome, and affirmed his bishopric of Rome to be the highest religious authority in the West. Back to Aetius, he was putting the Goths yet again in their containment zone. And once he returned to Italy to deal with other matters, the general was defeated. So then he sent one of his officers, a man named Avitus, to make a treaty with the Visigoths.
He doesn't have a big chin though.
While in Africa, as the Vandals neared Carthage, Theodosius II sent a fleet to stop them. But after some inconclusive skirmishes, Gaiseric had made a prisoner, one of the Palatini guards, and after foreseeing his future through dark magic, he released him in exchange for never opposing them again. A treaty was then settled that gave the Vandals all of the Media, and the legions returned to fortify against the Huns. It will surprise no one that Gaiseric then invaded Africa anyway, took over the local fleet and seized all nearby islands, proclaiming the birth of the Vandal Kingdom. Germs in North Africa. But Aetius was granted no opportunity to stop this, as his armies were kept busy enough holding on to Hispania and fending off a new Frankish attack.
My boys fighting on 50
but the invasion
fronts.
was frustrated by Majorian, who kicked them back. And later, together with Aetius, defeated the Frankish king in battle, together with his son, Merovage, future founder of the Merovingian
Why is he choking him?
See, little did they know where the true enemy laid. As for the Eastern Emperor, he had fallen from his horse, broke his neck, and died. Yeah. Leaving no male heirs, his zealot MILF sister Pulcheria stepped up again, and married to the now captain of the Palatini, Marcian, making him the new Augustus. And as for the Western Emperor, he had married to the now adult Licinia some time back, and had two daughters, Eudoxia and Placidia. And Aetius had bore a son with his Gothic wife, hoping for a new Stilicho, which didn't happen. And as Valentinian pondered betrothing Placidia to either him or Majorian, Pelagia threw a huge tantrum to get her way. As for the young Eudoxia, Valentinian betrothed her to his new hostage, Gaiseric's son, hoping to ally with the Vandals, the fool. All of these marriages and betrothals while Honoria remained single, whoring around like Messalina and the Julias of old used to. But that ended when she was betrothed to some random boring senator to settle down. But Honoria wouldn't have it. She would rather have the whole Western Empire burned than marry a dude she didn't like. In perhaps the most selfishly cruel act in Roman history, Honoria wrote a letter she didn't like.
If I can't live as a whore,
perhaps the most selfishly cruel,
no one else will live. Oh no. The whore has power.
Act in Roman history, Honoria wrote a letter asking for help, begging to be saved from Valentinian's forced marriage, putting in one of Honorius' rings in it as proof of her identity, and sending it. And who did she send it to?
You fucking dumbass bitch. She sent a letter to Attila.
Attila the Hun.
How does that even... Okay, a question, history. How do you convince a pleb to carry a letter to the Huns? The people that have just been, killing everybody. Everybody. It's like, oh, Hey, Attila, what's up, boy? I got left for you from this whore over there. She's important whore, she got a ring. Okay, you gotta check it out, boy.
Who took this as an offer of marriage from a being almost as disregarding of human life as he was. The moment Aetius had foreseen was at hand. Hundreds of thousands of Huns now rode west. Attila would soon be there. Galla Placidia lived long enough to protect Honoria from execution, and instead being exiled, with her dying shortly after that, leaving it to Aetius to send words to all corners of the world still under Roman rule, telling them that it was now life or death. From Italy to Illyria, from Gaul to Hispania, Aetius marched and gathered every last able-bodied Roman he could find. Patrician or plebe, strong or weak, all were recruited into the army. The descendants of old heroes, unknown either to them or to others, heeded the call to fight. For those doomed to live in the end times were nevertheless still connected to the ideals of a bygone golden age. It didn't matter how...
That's some Warhammer fantasy shit. Living in the end times, it's either fight or die.
Little did they share the values and practices that once made Rome great, nor how well they did. It would take everything the Empire had to stop Attila from destroying it all. Everything. Including those very barbarians that so plagued the Empire for centuries. The first death was that of the Frankish king, and while Aetius had a puppet ready to take over, Marevich, the approaching Huns disputed this. The barbarians could feel their persecutor ever nearer, and it was then that Aetius contacted them. While they shared opposite views and goals of how to rule this world, they now both shared an enemy that sought nothing but their mutual destruction and enslavement. Typically, Germans wouldn't listen to reason, and at first didn't. But Aetius dragged such fear into the hearts of barbarians he was as bad as Attila for them. And thanks to Avitus' diplomatic efforts, Aetius once again was successful in subduing the barbarians. To counter Aetius' growing anti-Hun coalition, Attila subdued more barbarians under his rule, among them the Ostrogoths and Franks, assisted in his efforts by one of his officers and most loyal servants, Odoacer. Crossing the Rhine, the city of Metz was the first to fall to him, personally hunting down the bishop of the city and killing him before his own altar. The Huns had invaded the west, there was no time to waste. Aetius had but a few weeks before everything was lost, and he was going to use them.
Second. Hey, we're back. Sorry about that, everybody. Sorry. Fuck, skip the shit. Oh, please. Please tell me it's not copyrighted.
To defeat the Huns. Did they send me daughters when I asked for sons? You're the saddest bunch I ever met, but you can bet before we're through, Mister, I'll make a man out of you. Time is racing toward us until the Huns
What the fuck?
arrive. Heed my every order, and you
Rona.
might survive.
Goddamn!
You're
Oh, with that scene.
might survive.
The Trojans' Guide to Rebuilding a Civilization.
You're unsuited for the race.
Yeah, they're gonna get decimated, aren't they?
So pack up, go home, you're through. How could I make a man out of you? Be a man, we must be swift as the coursing river, with all the force of a great typhoon, with all the strength of a raging fire, mysterious as the dark side of the moon.
What the fuck? A training montage.
What little time Aetius had left was now over. Attila had crossed his entire horde to Gaul and reigned
Jesus.
terror in the cities therein. But Attila's main target was the city of Orleans, by then Aurelianum, the city rebuilt and named after the one god's greatest hero. But on the way stood Paris, which radiated such holiness Attila chose to destroy it as well. As the Proto-Parisians lost hope, one saintly woman,
Proto-Paris.
Genevieve, did not, praying for protection from Deus and calling the others to do the same.
Pray, you plebs.
The aura of divinity it summoned forth was too much for Attila to bear, abandoning the siege, forever immortalizing Genevieve as the patron saint of Paris. It was now Aurelianum's
That's
turn
not
to be
Paris.
besieged. Putting all of his forces into the effort, it wouldn't last long, for the city had already
Opens the
been previously
gates.
taken by barbarians, who betrayed the city into the Huns' dominion. But as they opened the gates to let Attila through, the citizens of Aurelianum revolted, slaughtered the barbarians and closed shut the gates once more. Insulted, Attila barraged the city's defenses day and night, but the citizens didn't give up, holding up for as long as they could.
Yeah, you ain't taking the city if it's guarded by the big chins, Attila. It's not gonna happen, buddy.
After several days of continued attack, as the city nearly fell, their prayers were finally answered by what had emerged on the horizon.
It's the Holy Eagle.
At their side, Attila lifted the siege and withdrew further from the city. Aetius set pursuit, and as fate would have it, was set to face Attila at the Catalaunian plains. The battle for the fate of the world had started. Aetius and his legions took the left, various barbarian tribes the center, and Theodoric's Visigoths the right, with his son held back holding onto a ridge. The battle started terribly, with Attila personally carving through the center and raining arrows on both sides at once. But Aetius held strong with a shield wall, which the Visigoths copied, and Attila answered by sending his frontline hordes forward.
Look at the clubs. Look at the picking out of the shield wall.
As 1 million men fought for the fate of the world, Attila passed through the broken center and went straight for Theodoric. As the Huns fell upon them,
Copy the Romans.
Theodoric rallied the Visigoths to hold. He was impaled by a spear, thrown by the Ostrogothic slaves serving Attila. As the Visigoths neared collapse, Aetius rode to their aid, crashing into Attila's forces, who countered by sending his remaining hordes to attack all at once. Aetius killed Hun after Hun, but still suffered many losses. Out of all enemies that Rome had ever fought, none commanded more fear than Attila. And if there was anything he desired to prove, was that it didn't matter what Aetius did, how many legions he trained, or allies gathered. In the end, Rome would fall. Attila assured Aetius he was alone. There would be only darkness for him and death for his people. These barbarians were only the beginning. Attila would
Sad
command an
times.
even greater and terrible army and ride to 1,000,000 cities. He would ride until every light had been extinguished. Aetius was strong, but Attila was beyond strength. He was the end, and he had come for him. Staring into the abyss of Roman history, and it staring right back at him, Aetius stood strong, undefiant, and not alone. The legions he had trained held their ground against the constant Hunnic attack, and while the Visigoths collapsed, Theodoric's son charged from a ridge, pushing the Huns back and turning the tide of battle. As the Huns fled from the battle, dying by the thousands and retreating with no options, Attila followed suit, defeated for the first time. The morning after Attila followed suit, defeated for the
Take your edgy purple pellets out of here.
first time. The morning after the battle, the impossible had become a reality. The empire had defeated Attila, and Aetius was praised as the man universally recognized as the terror of barbarians. To finish it all, Aetius
title.
ordered the coalition to pursue Attila, but the Visigoths and others refused to fight, and under their new leader, they had returned to their barbaric ways. No sooner had Attila left Gaul than
Wow.
the coalition disintegrated, the barbarians returning to ransack Gaul as if the Huns wouldn't return. But Aetius knew better. Day after day, Aetius patiently waited for a Hunnic counterattack.
Any day now.
It never did come, not from where he expected. To Aetius' horror, the scouts reported Attila had neither stayed
What are those scouts?
on the Rhine, nor returned beyond the Danube. Drenched in a vengeful wrath, Attila launched a direct invasion of Italy and was met with Aquileia at its entrance. Sieging and eventually taking the city, Attila didn't conquer Aquileia. He didn't sack Aquileia. Attila destroyed Aquileia. All of its citizens were massacred, walls torn down, and buildings demolished. Its complete destruction had a point. it was to show what Attila had planned for Rome. However, a few did manage to survive, fleeing to the islands near the shore, and forming a community that would live up to Rome's tradition longer than anyone else. Attila then moved towards Majorian, meeting Aetius there, and despite no longer having the men to face him head-on, he caused enough pain on his backlines Attila wasn't able to destroy the city. But however much damage Aetius could inflict, he could not stop Attila from marching south.
That's a lot of roads.
As Attila approached what remained of
Is that a joke about the all roads lead to Rome thing?
In the sky, a figure was carried onto the ground, held by two angels, emanating a divinity stronger than any other.
That bitch got a lot of eyes, bruh.
Leo, going north to stop the demonic Attila by himself, wishing to talk with the Hunnic king. As Attila prepared to slaughter the most sacred of bishops, something began to manifest behind him. Standing tall and visible only to Attila, the spectral form of a man in robes emerged, drawing his sword and threatening Attila and his armies with death if they didn't heed what Leo had to say. At the sight, Attila agreed to Leo's request and went to talk with him in private, and the content of that conversation is legendary.
Okay.
After that, Attila was convinced that attacking Rome wasn't really what he wanted anyway, and ordered his Huns to leave Italy. After that, he had a huge
Oh. What the? Oh, Jesus. Okay.
After that, Attila was convinced that attacking Rome wasn't really what he wanted anyway, and ordered his Huns to leave Italy. After that, he had a huge party, married a Gothic barbarian, had a nosebleed, and died. Soon after his death, the Huns broke apart into several groups and migrated away to different corners of the world, and that was the tale of Attila. Thanks to Aetius and Leo, Attila had been defeated for good, and against all odds, the empire yet lived.
Okay, a quick interlude. Let's be fucking honest here. If the Roman Empire wasn't at such a low point, I don't think Attila would have made anything. Like, I think he would have been fucking decimated by the Roman Empire. Like, I'm pretty sure he basically attacked Rome at its weakest. I think if all the civil wars and shit did not happen 100 years before he attacked, probably would have gotten slapped and thrown around like a little
as a
bitch.
shadow of its former self, the empire remained weakened, her lands divided and taken over.
Oh, I forgot about the dude over there in
To
Africa.
save it all, Aetius gathered all of his officers, discussing his strategy to free their lands and restore the empire to its former glory.
I should have expected this.
You see, during this road-ending commotion, the emperor had kept himself busy with things like gambling and raping the wives of married men, including a one named Petronius. Knowing that Aetius would stand in the way of his revenge, he convinced Valentinian Aetius was planning to murder him, which he bought, and so he backstabbed him at the first opportunity, having all of his loyal officers watch him die. Denied help and betrayed so cruelly, Aetius bled to death on the floor, condemned as an enemy of Rome. As Valentinian celebrated, he was approached by a local bishop, divinely guided by Leo, telling him he had cut his right hand with his left. Furious at Aetius' assassination, Marcellinus revolted against Valentinian, taking over Illyria and leaving Valentinian with only Italy under total control. Seeking to gain from Aetius'
What a stab in the back.
asked Valentinian
What comes
to be
around
named as
goes
his
around.
new Magister Militum, but he was shielded against by the very leeches that had helped him earlier. So he stuck with his original plan, and while the emperor and his leeches were visiting Rome, he arranged for 2 Scythians that were loyal to Aetius to guard them, and let them avenge their master by murdering them all. Petronius then bribed the entire Senate to acclaim him emperor, married Licinia for legitimacy, engaged his friend Olybrius with Placidia, and married Eudoxia to his son, the same Eudoxia that had been betrothed to the Vandal prince. Dicinia, of course, didn't accept this, and learning from the stupidity of Honoria, she imitated her, writing and sending a letter begging to be rescued from an unwanted marriage. And
Oh
who
no.
did she send it to?
Oh no.
Gaiseric, the Vandal King. With the best possible
Wait, is this the African one?
Gaiseric
Yeah,
launched
right.
a huge armada against Rome, seeking to finish what Attila had
Hey,
started.
it's crazy what some people would do for some of that royal pussy bot. I'm sorry.
Taken by surprise, Petronius had left Rome unprepared for such an attack, so he panicked and told everyone else to panic, telling Rome's citizens to flee away from the city, spreading chaos and confusion everywhere. As he fled, Petronius and his son were cornered by an angry plebeian mob and torn limb from limb, with them being thrown on the Tiber River as the Romans fled the Eternal City. When Gaiseric had landed Rome, he found the city severely depopulated and unguarded, proceeding to ransack it even more than Alaric had. All of Rome's aqueducts were destroyed, statues of emperors and past heroes were torn down, all the gold Titus had brought from Judea stolen, the roof of the Temple of Jupiter torn away, and the remaining population raped and enslaved.
What I don't understand is why don't they just take the city? Why do they raze it?
Such was the brutality and destruction the Vandals perpetrated, the name Vandal would forever be remembered as he who willfully damages property. Often beautiful.
Oh, true. Wow, I didn't. Wow, so that's where it comes from the actual Vandals. Wow. Why didn't I never pieced this shit together? Wow. That's very cool.
Presiding over the chaos, Pope Leo once more conjured his divine
I hate this timeline.
and had Gaiseric pull back from completely destroying the city. And after seizing the imperial family and hearing of Petronius' gruesome fate, Gaiseric left the city with them. And while Gaiseric terrorized the Italian coast, we get back to Avitus in Gaul, who had been sent by Petronius to bribe the Visigoths for support. And now that he was dead, the new Visigothic king, Theodoric II, proclaimed Avitus the new Western Emperor. Getting to Rome and facing Ganseric's rage without the prospect of Eastern assistance, Avitus turned to Ricimer for help, and so he sent Ricimer to deal with the Vandals, and spent what little wealth Rome still had to pay off the Goths, something the remaining citizens of Rome didn't like at all.
Yeah.
Soon enough, the plebs' resentment was targeted at Avitus, forcing him to leave Rome.
Visigoths help me.
Deep down, Ricimer wanted nothing but to extinguish the last flames that dared to keep Rome alive. And out of all of them, Majorian, now returned from exile, burned the brightest.
Oh no,
is often pragmatic.
the big chin.
Thus he devised a plan to use Majorian as a likable puppet as he amassed power behind the scenes as his right-hand man. And after convincing him Avitus had to go for the Empire's own sake, they made an alliance against him. Capturing Avitus without much trouble, Majorian wouldn't kill a fellow veteran of Aetius, and so made him a bishop, sparing him the fate of so many ex-emperors. Or so it would be, with Ricimer secretly murdering him right after. He wasn't the only one to die, as Marcian had also left this world, and with Pulcheria dead as well, Vesper, who was still around, was the Ricimer of the East, appointing a general in good standing to be his puppet, a man that wouldn't be a puppet, named Leo, confusingly enough. And just like him, Majorian had no intention of being a puppet.
At this
timeline. As he
timeline.
into his empire, weakened and on the brink of death, he chose the hero's path, vowing to restore the empire to its former glory. It had befallen Aetius to save Rome from Attila, and under Majorian's rule, it would befall his legions to keep it alive.
It's pretty insane that at this point Rome even has legions left after so many fucking battles, wars. They've been at war for like, I feel like 300 years straight, maybe even more. How do they still have able-bodied men? That's insane to me.
Knowing
it's impressive,
many battles were to come,
to be honest.
Majorian emulated Aetius by taking many barbarians under Rome's command, trusting Ricimer to govern Italy while
yes, that's right.
Seeking to cleanse the rot on the state and society, Majorian passed a series of laws to encourage the birth of kids, punish adultery, crack down on senatorial corruption, and to affirm the citizens' fundamental right to bear arms
it's America.
Not be infringed. Of Majorian's major deeds, he hunted down all of those that damaged old constructions for their marble, seeking to preserve the legacy of old heroes. During these reforms, the Vandals invaded Campania and sacked it, and Majorian marched there and killed them all. Just as quickly, when the Alemanni invaded Italy out of nowhere, Majorian immediately had them kicked out. Now respected by all, Majorian was recognized by Leo as his co-emperor, named Aegidius as his Magister Militum, and was pledged loyalty to by Marcellinus, accompanied by his nephew, Julius Napus, one of the last remnants of the Julian clan. He then proceeded to rebuild Ravenna's fleet, and with the Visigoths running rampant in the west, Majorian used it to land his legions there and save Arles like Aetius had done, surrounding them, beating them back to Aquitaine and reducing them back to federati status. Never stopping, after traitors had given up Lugdunum to the Burgundians, Majorian marched there and killed them all, retaking the city. Next, he would attack the Suebi to take back Hispania, pouring all of his money into the construction of a massive new fleet, intended for the soon-to-be reconquest of North Africa. To start off, he had sent Marcellinus with a fleet
nervous
to
vandal
Sicily.
sounds.
Fearing an invasion and that he wouldn't be able to beat Majorian in open battle, King Ceric resorted to the weakness of all perfect men, the imperfect man around him. In his cruelty, Genseric raided and slaughtered all the lands in Mauritania to make any Roman invasion there unfeasible. And after
he did the Russian thing. What was that shit called in history? I forgot. Yeah, I remember. I don't remember when it was, but he had the Russian thing, burning everyone in the way of the enemy so that they don't have any resources to sustain themselves after when they invade. It's smart, but it's kind of fucked up.
All of Hispania, Majorian returned to finish.
But it's war, so...
Once he arrived, he was met with a blazing inferno. His efforts and ambitions betrayed just like that.
Maybe on the second or third attempt.
But Majorian knew that if he gave up, everything would be lost. As the last generation keeping Rome alive, Majorian dispersed his army far and wide, sent to all corners of the west to defend the empire while planning his next move. On the other hand, his victories shattered Ricimer's plan to have him as a puppet, going around giving hope to people that the empire could be saved. He was unforgivable. Copying Gaiseric, Ricimer approached the disgruntled leeches of the empire. In exchange for support, promised to get rid of the hand that so threatened their corruption. Returning to Italy, Majorian ready to pass several more reforms to strengthen the empire.
Stabbed in the back.
Assured by all that everything was fine as he went to pass the night. The trap had been laid. Germanic betrayal was to reshape Roman history yet again. Having usurped power behind the scenes, Ricimer's ascension would see the last remaining heroes of the empire die, one after the other. Kept alive for days, Majorian was subjected to the most painful tortures known to man. Humiliated, deposed, betrayed, Majorian was killed, his corpse left to rot. In the immortal words of Edward Gibbon, Majorian presents the welcome discovery of a great and heroic character, such as sometimes arise in a degenerate age, to vindicate the honor of the human species. He was among the last of the Romans. The end was at hand. The barbarians now roamed the empire unimpeded, and Rome itself was now at their mercy. Again in the position to name emperors, Ricimer arranged for the weakest, most pathetic of men to be his puppet, a one named Libius, having everyone recognize him as Augustus. With the murder of Majorian, the invading barbarians consolidated into new barbaric kingdoms, while remaining legates like Marcellinus revolted against Ricimer's regime, Aegidius likewise, taking over northern Gaul. Honoring his friend's memory, Aegidius defended northern Gaul by himself in what would eventually be known as the Kingdom of Saxons. Trying to get rid of them, Ricimer bribed the Visigoths with lands in Hispania so that they attacked Aegidius. And down south, Genseric had returned to raiding the Italian coast, demanding Olybrius to become emperor as his own personal puppet to control. Unable to stop this threat to his power, Ricimer needed help from the Eastern Emperor, and given that he didn't recognize Librius as legitimate, Ricimer betrayed his own puppet, having him poisoned to death. This, however, only made Genseric shield for Olybrius even more, even raiding Greece to bully the East into appeasing his wishes. But it backfired, convincing Emperor Leo to crush the Vandals with all of his might. Picking up where Majorian left off, Leo spent all of his gold he had into the creation of a gigantic fleet. Over 1,000 ships were built, carrying 100,000 men meant for the reconquest of North Africa. And as for there being no Western Emperor, Leo resorted to the grandson of both a pathetic and a great man.
How to activate your Chad almonds.
Procopius,
everybody can borrow that book.
And Phemius, sending him
west.
Regarding the fleet, with Aspar realizing Leo wouldn't be his puppet, he ordered the fleet's commander to betray Rome, and intentionally ruin the campaign to disgrace Leo. On their way to Africa,
anything for a chance to betray.
Took Sicily back into imperial rule. Genseric needed time, and so literally bought time, bribing the navy commander to accept the truce. Using said time, Genseric got his fleet ready, launching a night attack with ships loaded to the brim with explosives. In the middle of the truce, Genseric attacked from all directions together with the explosive ships, devastating the Roman fleet. The treacherous general then fled right away.
Aspar, help me!
Half of the Grand Imperial Armada had been destroyed, with tens of thousands of legionnaires left dead on the sea they used to call their own. Marcellinus survived the battle, escaping to Sicily and falling right into Ricimer's hands, who had him sharing the fate of his comrades. Yet another catastrophic defeat allowed the barbarians to prey even further on the Western Empire, with the recently freed Ostrogoths taking over Pannonia. And facing such a crisis, Euphemius turned to a rumor of a great civilized king in Britannia. Desperate for helping Gaul, he sent a letter to this king of the Britons, asking for assistance against the Visigoths. The king agreed, allowed passage through Saxons. The king fought the barbarians and won many battles, but was the victim of a terrible betrayal, after which he retreated to a town under Burgundian occupation, named Avalon. In time, that traitor's name would be remembered as Mordred, and that king's name as Arthur. And as legends began, so did betrayals persist, this time by one of Ricimer's friends trying his luck in overthrowing the emperor, but he found out about it and had him executed. And this just wouldn't do for Ricimer. A puppet with enough autonomy to protect himself was no puppet at all. Meanwhile, Leo had grown tired of Genseric's constant demands regarding betrayal, so he sent him to Rome with the mission of calming things over there, but also sending an order for Euphemius to kill him on arrival, something Ricimer intercepted, showing to Olybrius and acclaiming him as emperor, later killing Euphemius with the help of his new evil subordinate. But even the most evil, cruel, historical monsters do eventually die, and satisfied with the irreparable crimes against civilization he committed, Ricimer died soon after, alongside Olybrius, to Genseric's fury. Unfortunately, Ricimer had left his Burgundian nephew as Magister Militum, who used such power to name a nearby Palatine, Glycerius, as emperor, then left to rule the Burgundian kingdom. Weak and alone, Glycerius would spend his rule bribing Visigoths and Ostrogoths to not invade Italy. Such was the point the Roman emperor had been brought to. As for who Leo favored to be emperor, that would be Marcellinus' nephew, Nepos in Dalmatia, who with his help led an invasion of Italy. Unable to stop him, Glycerius surrendered, and for that Nepos turned him into the Bishop of Salona, basing him on Diocletian's old palace, now a cathedral, something he
Why do they keep making these dudes bishops after they, take reign of the empire?
Leo then died.
No one touches the cabbage.
Mortal diarrhea, eventually leaving the empire to his general Zeno.
Yeah.
Oh, how I dreaded this moment. While Nepos' rule would mirror much his predecessors, even managing to take the Gallic coast back, but it was lost again after he was deposed. Yes, you heard me right. For Nepos had as Magister Militum none other than Orestes, and having betrayed civilization long ago, marching a barbarian army on the capital was no impediment to him. Nepos was then forced to flee back to Salona, where he chilled with Glycerius, now sharing the same fate. Orestes had usurped power, but didn't rule himself. Instead, he made his own son an imperial puppet, naming Romulus Augustulus as emperor.
Romulus Augustulus.
Cruelest jokes.
High-pitched virgin laugh.
The barbarians demanded lands in Italy as payment, which Orestes denied. So the barbarians sided with the nearest barbarian officer, Odoacer, who beat Orestes in battle and killed him, getting proclaimed as, dear me, the barbarian king of Italy. Odoacer thus gathered his barbarians and slowly traversed through the treacherous swamps of Ravenna. And what happened next is history. When Odoacer broke through Ravenna's gates, he didn't find the all-powerful emperor of the civilized world, nor 2 elected consuls protecting the republic, not even a king leading its people to prosperity. No, instead he found a weak, trembling child, unable to protect himself, much less the people he nominally ruled.
Emperor
Zeno later received the news, learning that Romulus Augustulus had been deposed, and together with the message, Odoacer sent the Western Imperial Regalia, proclaiming there was to be no new Western emperor. This was the end. Odoacer took over Italy as his own personal kingdom. Nepos would mount a resistance in Dalmatia, but would be betrayed and conquered by barbarians.
Jesus! How many betrayals did we have in this episode alone? Everyone gets betrayed. You betrayed.
Aetius and his successors resisted for a decade more, but were eventually overwhelmed and suffered the same fate. The Western Roman Empire had completely fallen. Here starts the Dark Ages. The fall of Rome was nothing short of a catastrophe for humanity. At first to the sea and land trade routes connecting peoples all over. Then to the Roman cities, beautifully and orderly built, were one by one destroyed and replaced by barbarian mud huts. The education system collapsed, breeding plebs 10 times less literate and cultured, later known as peasants. Previously compatriot provinces were broken down into countless petty kingdoms, doomed to petty wars and hatred. The church reigned supreme, but not always as the followers of Deus, but often as corrupted, sinful mortals. But in many ways, Rome hadn't truly fallen. In one form or another, it would continue to exist for as long as there were those who believed in its ideas. Its forgotten knowledge would be eventually rediscovered. Its laws, languages, faiths, icons, and heroes, universally praised, served as the building blocks for new civilizations to arise from its ashes. It would often be the case, in this far future, where the ruins of the once great empire attracted admirers, filling them with wonder and questions. They would...
Well, I was just about to point out the British and look. Why? Why are you gonna do the British like that, bruh?
But ask, who were these people that could raise such structures in the past? What was their history? What was their story? Were one of them to know, he would tell the story of a long-gone people and their dream. A dream of civilization, order, and glory. A dream of kingdoms, republics, and empires. A dream to purge this rotten world from the barbarians that infest it. A dream called Rome.
Oh damn, boy. I mean, technically my boys were barbarians at the start, so what is wrong with that guy's head on the bottom right? because this is gonna get my channel striked probably, so we're gonna end it here. Okay, quick thank you to the Patreons: Pedro Martinez, Commandsko, Ian, Rob, Barry, Princess, Fast, Derek Hughes, Chicken 23, 53 I mean, bye buddy. Thank you all. Next time we're starting with Byzantium. Why Byzantium? Because it has Bulgaria. Okay. It should have Bulgaria technically. Someone let me know, it's already in the first episode, so yeah, boys fucking excited. But he's probably gonna insult my boys, my Bulgarian brothers, certainly, because, you know, we in Byzantium did not really see eye to eye. Sometimes no eyes, but it is what it is. History is history. We can't change it. We can only change the future. Anyway, I'll see you next time, everybody. Have a nice fucking day.